Florida Blue claims that the village's Medicare coding errors was a scheme. Sex offender from Michigan moves into a rental on the historic side of the villages. Carjacker fires gun into a woman's car during a rampage in the villages. Florida continues to set records for tourism this year. Ohio and Indiana put holds on a man with a restricted driver's license. Bankrupt village's health, paying $150,000 per month to restructuring officer. A storm is blamed for the water main break in the villages. No holes in ones of golf reported this week. Letters to the editor. And more bad parking. This and more coming up. This week's news is brought to you by my YouTube and Patreon members. Thanks, everybody, for coming to this week's Villages News Updated. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon for more news when it becomes available. Let's get on with it. An 80-year-old villager has been ordered into anger management after using a cane to attack a man in a golf cart in a parking lot dispute at Publix. Henry Koch of the village of Sanibel is poised to escape prosecution on a charge of battery on a person over the age of 65 as the result of being allowed to enter into a pre-trial intervention contract. Koch must complete 8 hours of anger management training as part of the deal arranged through the prosecutor's office according to the contract on file at Sumter County Court. He must also perform 50 hours of community service, although he will be allowed to buy out of that service at a rate of $10 per hour. And that'll be his update. A carjacker fired a bullet into a woman's Cadillac during a terrifying rampage in Florida's friendliest hometown. An arrest report is providing details about a convicted felon who brandished a weapon at Colony Cottage Recreation Center and a nearby Walgreens at Colony Plaza. The 911 dispatch center received multiple calls at 8:17 p.m. Wednesday, reporting a man with a gun attempting to enter a vehicle at Walgreens, according to the arrest report. 4 minutes later, a sheriff's office crime scene technician who was at Colony Cottage Recreation Center used her agency-issued portable radio to press her man-down button, alerting all sheriff's office employees equipped with agency-issued radios. A woman was in a red Cadillac at Walgreens when 48-year-old Christopher Allen Grant approached her with a towel draped over a gun. He tried to open the door of her Cadillac. The woman said she was in fear of her life and drove a short distance away. She returned to Walgreens to let store employees know what had happened. When she reached the parking lot, Grant fired a gun at her Cadillac. The bullet entered the driver's side back seat and traveled across the center console, hitting the passenger side dashboard. This guy didn't care if there was children in the car. Inside the store, Grant had pointed a gun at a man's head. Grant told the man to follow his orders or he would blow his head off. Grant ordered the man to move from the rear of the store to the front of the store. Grant, who stands 6 feet tall and weighs 175 pounds, grabbed a Walgreens employee by the arm. The Walgreens worker had been assisting a customer when the woman ran by screaming that the man in the store had a gun. Minutes later, at Colony Cottage, Grant pointed his gun at a man and forced him into his vehicle. Grant was seated in the passenger seat and ordered the man to drive. The man had discreetly removed a backpack from his car, which held the vehicle's key fob, and in an attempt to halt the carjacking. The man spotted a sheriff's office crime scene technician van and made a break for it. Grant chased the man toward the crime scene technician vehicle where he pointed a gun at the man as well as the crime scene technician. Deputies descended on the scene and took Grant into custody. He continued to be held without bond Wednesday night at the Sumter County Detention Center. Listen, people, look at this guy. Just look at this guy. You know, I hate to say that I'm being, discriminatory or whatever, but look at this guy. He's a mess. I mean, come on. If you see somebody like that walking toward your car, lock it, scream, call, put it in drive, haul ass, get out of there. And these people with tattooed faces and weird, if they look weird, go by your senses. Get out of there. And here's a problem with having things open to the public. This is going on more and more and more here each and every day throughout all of the villages, and there's no stopping it. Police are doing what they can do. These reports are almost daily anymore. Okay, there's a lot of the village's bankruptcy information. It's a lot. I'm not going to be able to read all of this. This news will be way too long, and I know that the average person doesn't even care. But I do because I'm in the village's health system, and there's many of us that are. An ombudsman has been appointed to monitor patient care in the village's health. Susan Richard, who operates SMR Healthcare Management Corporation in Las Vegas, has been named the official patient care ombudsman, according to documents on file with the U.S. Bankruptcy Court. Richards originally worked as a nurse before climbing her way into the executive healthcare ranks and eventually forming her own company. She is now charged with servicing as an ombudsman for the more than 55,000 patients who receive care through the village's health. Richard will monitor the quality of patient care provided to patients as the village's health to the extent necessary under these circumstances, including interviewing patients and physicians. When the government gets involved, that's usually when I want to run. When the government gets involved, it screws things up. The 55,000 patients, as well as the 900 employees in the village's health, are in uncertain waters after the village's health CEO Bobby Trin announced in July that the village's health was seeking bankruptcy protection. The bankruptcy is intertwined with erroneous Medicare coding. I don't understand that. That could force the village's health to repay as much as $360 million to the U.S. government. Eyebrows have been raised here in
Florida's friendliest hometown
after it was revealed in court documents that Trin received a $200,000 bonus the day before the bankruptcy was announced. Now that seems a little suspicious to me, but I don't understand how this all works. Trin's compensation over the past 6 years has been $1.06 million. Many villagers are wondering why Trin has been so handsomely rewarded if he was oblivious to the Medicare coding errors which prompted the bankruptcy. In July 3, a letter from Trin reassured patients that the planned sale of the village's health to Humana's Centerwell would be seamless. But right out of the gate, the seamless transition hit a roadblock due to legal objections from United Healthcare, which has an exclusive marketing arrangement with the village's health dating back to 2013. United Healthcare had paid rights for exclusive use of the village's health logo in marketing its Medicare Advantage plan for the villages. And that's when I signed in. I moved here 2014, so right in that area right there is when I signed up. And what they just said right there is absolutely true. Regardless of what anybody else is telling you, I'm telling you it's absolutely true. I thought United Healthcare was it. That's all they ever talked about. You went in any of the offices, it was United Healthcare. There was nobody else in there. Now, what happened years after that, I'm not aware of. They've changed things, I believe. They started adding Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and they started accepting other places. But up to that point, anybody that had standard Medicare, I'll call it, they were kicked out. The villages said, you got to find somebody else. You got 60 days to do so. We're done. You can't be, unless you're on Medicare Advantage, you could not be part of the village's health system. Since then, there's been a lot of issues raised and been a lot of changes. So when I talk about something that happened in 2014, please don't attack me for something that you said you did in 2018. It's not the same at all. Florida Blue has claimed in a legal document that it was overbilled by $25 million by the village's health thanks to the so-called medical coding errors. Florida Blue also claims the errors were actually a scheme. It's the latest revelation in the ongoing legal and financial saga surrounding the bankrupt healthcare provider founded by the villages. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Florida, known by its trade name Florida Blue, offers various health insurance plans for residents in the villages. Florida Blue is alleging that it was overbilled by the villages' health, which falsely added 2 specific diagnoses into patient files: cognitive defects and other specific hematological disorders and specific heart arrhythmia. Sorry if I pronounced any of that wrong. Florida Blue charges that the coding error in reality turned out to be a 4 years long scheme to add diagnostic codes to patient files. Florida Blue charges that the coding errors have cost it $25 million. Florida Blue has scoured the data and concluded that in 2024 alone, the village's health's misconduct resulted in thousands of diagnostic codes that should not have been included in patient files and corresponding overpayment of approximately $8 million, according to the documented filed this week in U.S. bankruptcy court. Florida Blue says this miscoding also extended into payments years 2023, 2022, and 2021, as well as continuing in payment year 2025. Furthermore, Florida Blue claims that the village's health had promised to provide the data necessary for Florida Blue to calculate the amount of overpayment for those years, but suddenly filed for bankruptcy before delivering the data. United Healthcare, which sold Medicare Advantage plans for many years as a partner of the village's health, also has said it was stunned by the sudden bankruptcy announcement made in July by the village's health CEO, Bobby Trin. He collected a $200,000 retention bonus one day before sending a letter to all 55,000 patients of the village's health, assuring them their care would continue despite the bankruptcy. United Healthcare has pointed the finger of blame directly at the Morse family and says that as the owners of the village's health, the Morse family raked in millions of dollars. The village's health paid out in a 3-year period from 2022 to 2024 a very substantial portion of $183 million, consisting of $64.2 million in tax-related distributions and $118.8 million to pay down a supposed line of credit with its major shareholder, 2 members of the Morse family, who own and control the villages through various corporate entities. United Healthcare also charges that the village's health claims not to know how much money it distributed to shareholders in 2020 and 2021. United Healthcare further contends that the $118.8 million purportedly spent paying down the line of credit was actually disguised equity distributions paid to the Morse family. During those years, the village's health also was paying roughly $10 million in annual rent to the village's operating company for the use of the clinics. Well, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I have owned a few businesses in my life. Nothing like this, but I have owned a few businesses. Some of the stuff they're talking about that they're investigating, to me, as a former business owner, sounds legit. They're going to investigate everything. Now that this has been filed by the bankruptcy court and there's a different bankruptcy attorneys involved, I think the books are going to be opened. Like it or not, how much of that is going to actually show anything? Time will tell, I guess. But I'm not going to say anybody's guilty of anything until we hear the full story. These letters that people send in to the editor and stuff like that, they don't know nothing. They don't know any more than I know anything. A doctor claims the village's health fell short of his promises. Dr. Jim Bashon has outlined his differences with the village's health in a documented file this week in the U.S. bankruptcy court in Orlando. Bashong, who has been practicing out of the Villages Health Mulberry Care Center since January, said he was promised annual compensation of $230,000 for 3 years and a signing bonus of $15,000. Most importantly, he was told he would see a gradual buildup of his patient panel over a period of approximately 2 years to allow him ample time to integrate into the Villages Health care model and its billing methodology. However, shortly after he joined the Villages Health, Bashong said his workload increased drastically and unexpectedly due to multiple physician departures and leaves of absence at the Mulberry Care Center, the court document said. And within 2 months, he was carrying a full patient load. He also was handed a significant increase in duties without corresponding increase in compensation. Bashong, who is from Limbe, Cameroon, and earned his degree from Queens College,
New York,
and his medical degree from Ross University, has filed an objection in the bankruptcy proceeding. Also in bankruptcy court this week, Judge Lori Vaughn received assurance that the Villages Health 55,000 patients are being kept in the loop and being provided updates about the status of the bankruptcy proceedings. Vaughn presided in the hearing about the crucial financing needed to keep the Villages Health afloat prior to a possible sale in September. United Healthcare, the Villages Health, longtime Medicare Advantage partner, had objected to the $46 million financial bridge offered by the Villages at 10% interest. Lawyers were able to iron out the interim agreement when the judge provided an additional 30-minute recess for the last-minute bargaining session. The bid deadline for the assets of the Villages Health has been set for September 3rd, with a potential sale announced on September 9. The Villages is hoping to close on the sale as early as October. The bankruptcy is intertwined with erroneous Medicare coding that could force the Villages Health to repay as much as $360 million to the U.S. government. You know, and I'm not sticking up for anybody. I'm just looking at all angles here. That Medicare coding thing basically is they hire a company to come in, a professional medical probably company, and write the formulas for billing on their computers. Now, if the person that programmed the computer programmed it wrong to where the person, let's say me, is sitting here and I'm just typing bills for people for their visits, and I'm doing what the computer tells me to do, I have nothing to say about that. Now, if that coding that they're putting on them bills is wrong and billing wrong and things have been added that shouldn't be there, that's where they need to investigate is why is it not there and why is it there? And you need to go to back probably to the programmer that programmed these computers. What company is that? I don't know. I don't even know if I'm right. I'm just looking at all angles here. But I will tell you, I have a lot of registered nurses. I have a lot of people that watches my channel from the medical field. You know, I don't have the largest subscribership here, but I have, I think, some of the smartest. And I got doctors that are retired, some are still working, and they get this information, what's going on down here, because possibly they're thinking about retiring down here. I don't know. But anybody that knows anything about this, watch the comments below. You'll see them. They'll tell you what they know, where they work, how it works. You'll learn more in the comment boxes down there than you ever will here in a newspaper. An emergency hearing has been scheduled for Monday afternoon on critical operational funding needed to keep the Villages Health up and running. The hearing is set for 2 p.m. in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in Orlando. It is hoped that the court will approve a plan that would enable the Villages Health to maintain ongoing operations and ensure the availability of essential medical care for its more than 55,000 patients. The 55,000 patients, as well as 900 employees in the Villages Health, are in uncertain waters after the Villages Health CEO Bobby Trin announced in July that the Villages Health was seeking bankruptcy protection. In the latest court filing, the Villages Health complains of an unexpected financial shortfall. The Villages Health is pointing the finger to blame at United Healthcare. The Villages Health claims United Healthcare has withheld in excess $7.6 million in payments to the Villages Health, contends it is owed by United Healthcare. It appears that the United Healthcare is withholding payments to the Villages Health in protest of the hurried sale to Humana. As part of the emergency hearing, the Villages Health has indicated it needs to borrow $46 million to keep the lights on, up substantially from the $24 million the Villages Health previously said it needed to borrow to maintain operations. Documents show the money is needed to meet a multi-million-dollar payroll and other operational expenses. The village's health says it needs additional funding to absorb the budgetary shortfall due to United Healthcare's funding cuts. The financial and legal turmoil have left the 55,000 patients in the village's health in medical limbo. All indications are that the villages is extremely eager to abandon its nearly decade-and-a-half effort to revive a Marcus Welby approach to medicine and to quickly shed financial liabilities connected to the bankruptcy and potential reimbursements of $360 million to the U.S. government. The villages is hoping to close on a sale to Humana in early October. That'll all be settled in bankruptcy court. They can't sell anything now without court's approval. So, and they may already have that. I don't know that. Now, at the end of all that, here's what I want to show you how people kind of hear what they want to hear. Here's a letter to the editor that I really should read at the end of all this, like I normally do, but I want to throw it here. So after reading all them different articles, that was about 4 different days of articles that I'm trying to catch you up with kind of what's going on. I'm going to read this letter to the editor, and in the comments below, you tell me how this person come up to any of this. To the editor. Are those at the village's health responsible for the theft of millions from Medicare? Theft. Nobody's been charged with anything. Being charged with providing repayment with interest, where'd that come from? In the order to minimize their prison sentences. See what I mean? This is the kind of rhetoric I'm talking about. Don't pay no attention to this. This guy's just made this up. Or he come to his own conclusions about things that was never reported. Potential property tax reform hangs like a shadow as Wildwood and other municipalities craft their budgets. It won't affect next year's budget, but the possibility of a statewide referendum next year to eliminate property taxes on homestead property could push cities and counties into financial distress. Oh, I'm sure you'll figure out a way how to get more money out of us. Wildwood City Manager Jason McHugh addressed the issue in a letter to commissioners who met Monday for their third budget workshop. Adoption of the proposed $280 million budget for 2025 and 2026 is expected next month after 2 public hearings. The next fiscal year begins October 1. Governor Ron DeSantis has advocated for a property tax reform initiative, possibly eliminating some taxes. The state has also created its own Department of Government Efficiency to analyze local government spending. If property tax were eliminated, the impact on the city of Wildwood would be severe and far-reaching, McHugh said. The city would face immediate budget deficits, forcing deep service cuts, eliminations of positions, and the need to pursue alternative funding. Wildwood expects to collect about $21.9 million in property taxes next year, which funds nearly half of the city's operating budget, paying for police protection and other services. The tax rate of $2.83 per 1,000 assessed value. I hate that word, assessed value. You know what that means, right? That means they're going to tell you what they think that property's worth, not what it's really worth. Assessed value would be the same as last year. It is considered a tax increase because it is higher than the rollback rate amount of $2.70, which is the rate needed to collect the same revenue as the prior year, except new construction. Home construction in the village of Southern Oaks, apartment projects, and commercial areas have boosted Wildwood's estimated tax base next year to $8.1 billion. Growth has spawned the need to expand the city's wastewater treatment plant. How's come the contractors ain't paying for that? Revenue bonds issued this fall will cover most of the $150 million cost of a new plant and upgrades to the current plant. When both projects are completed, Wildwood will have daily wastewater capacity of 5.5 million gallons. Facing the potential elimination of some property taxes, Commissioner Joe Elliott said local officials will need to campaign hard against a referendum. I'm not. I'm for it. You guys need to start balancing your budget. I'm tired of paying for everybody's bullshit. I think it's going to be a long uphill battle, but I like to think we will prevail. I hope not. Listen, I have been an advocate for eliminating property taxes. Even when I was in Indiana, I wrote letters to the different governors and mayors, and it got nowhere. It's just like once the government gets a hold of your billfold, they will never let go of it. And it's not their money. It's our money. They don't need that money. There's other things they can do. Tourism taxes is one. Indianapolis could do that with the races they have up there. All kinds of things. I don't want to get into it, but they do all kinds of other things to come up with the money without bothering elderly people, retired, about property taxes. They're always talking about tax relief, but they never do it. They're always talking about how seniors need more medical help and things like that. Pharmaceuticals, there's a big thing with pharmaceuticals right now. You know, Eli Lilly's on the chopping block about how much they're charging for drugs in the United States compared to what they're charging in other countries. But at the same time, things that they could do to help us, they just don't want to do. Property taxes is one of I've advocated for. I saw my parents and how they struggled about medical bills and things like that. And yet in a small town of nothing, and he lived in a small town of nothing, he paid more property taxes in that little town with there was 2 cops, I think, in the whole town. That's all there was. And I just thought to myself, you know, if these people up here didn't have to pay property taxes, and they were paying like $2,600 a month at that time, I said that $2,500 or $2,600 a month would help these people a lot. And if you think about it, you really never own your property by them keeping that tax on there. And I think that's what it's all about. They like to have that little possession right there because then they can push you to do things you really don't want to do any other way or any other time, but they got that hold on your property. Well, you better do it. If you don't do it, we'll take your property. Well, do away with that property taxes, and guess what? Now I own the property. I don't have to pay rent on my land or my property here in order for me to live here, and that's what it really boils down to. You're paying the government rent to be able to stay on your property. That really isn't your property. It can be taken away from you for 100 reasons. So I'm an advocate for doing away with property taxes on people over the age of, pick one, 70? Anybody over the age of 70 in any state doesn't pay property taxes, just to help them out. I'm for it. Let's have some more news. A clerk frantically fled out the back door of a 7-Eleven in the Villages when an intoxicated man demanded entry after the store had been closed. The lady clerk had closed up the convenience store located on the historic side of the Villages at 11 p.m. Friday when 40-year-old Moses Owen Hicko Hudden of Leesburg showed up at the front door, according to the arrest report of the Lady Lake Police Department. The clerk gestured and announced, "We're closed." Hudden began shouting, "Open the door." The heavily tattooed Massachusetts native began to kick and bang at the locked front doors. The clerk dialed 911 and ran out the back door. Hudden apparently found the unlocked rear door, walked into the convenience store, and poured himself a big gulp soda. Well, he was just thirsty. He walked out the front door without paying for the drink. Who was he going to pay? There's nobody in there. An officer arrived on the scene and immediately noticed that Hudden's speech was slurred and he had a thick tongue. Hudden, who was arrested last year in a stolen Land Rover in the Villages, appeared to be oblivious to the events which had transpired minutes earlier. "I only walked inside the store," he told police. The 7-Eleven clerk positively identified Hudden as the man who tried to force his way into the store. He was placed in a squad car and transported to Lake County Jail. When they reached the jail, Hudden was slumped over and gasping. He was taken to Advent Health Waterman, where he was evaluated and medically cleared. He was returned to the jail, and he was booked on charges of burglary, theft, and disorderly intoxication. Bond was set at $26,000. A man was arrested after he was found with drugs in a hotel room in the Villages. Officers were called at about 2:30 a.m. Friday at the Marriott Town Place Suites in Spanish Springs to investigate a report of an argument over a missing cell phone, according to the arrest report from the Lady Lake Police Department. The officers entered a hotel room and found 43-year-old Donald Allen Grant on a mattress. He was identified by his Michigan driver's license. He got up off the mattress, leading to the discovery of the missing cell phone. Officers also spotted a pill bottle which had been under the mattress. The markings on the pill bottle were indiscernible. In addition, they found a plastic bag which held 1.2 grams of methamphetamine. He was taken into custody and booked without bond at the Lake County Jail. He was held without bond due to the probation violation. He was placed on probation following his arrest in 2024. In that incident, he had been speeding on Rolling Acres Road. During a traffic stop, he was found to be in possession of a Palmetto Arms AR-15 rifle. He was not permitted to possess a weapon due to a primary felony conviction in Michigan. I'm always amazed about how stupid some of these people are. A home was damaged by a fire ignited by a lightning strike in the Villages. Neighbors called to report the blaze, which broke out about 8:30 p.m. Saturday in the 4100 block of the Sylvana Way in the Charlie Villas in the village of DeLuna. The Villages Public Safety Department responded, and firefighters observed heavy flames engulfing the roof area above the garage. Engine 46 promptly initiated an aggressive interior attack on the fire, while additional crews conducted a thorough primary search of the residence. Fortunately, no one was in the home. This incident highlights the critical importance of timely reporting and swift action from our firefighters, said Chief Brian Twiss. We are grateful that no one was harmed, and I commend our teams for their quick actions and effective responses. There have been 11 homes in the Villages struck by lightning in the past 12 months. I know you guys up north, I'm from the north, we've all seen lightning, we've all been through thunderstorms, thunder boomers as we like to call them. There is something about Florida that when down here it's almost scary in a lot of cases. The clouds seem like they hang lower to the ground. The lightning and thunder seems like it's hanging lower to the ground. So when they have a severe thunderstorm here, it puts all your senses at work to beware, to watch, to listen, to look. That's all I can really tell you. That your first major thunderstorm here is probably going to be an awakening. Okay, all you naysayers out there that says that Florida is getting ready to go bust, people are moving out by the hundreds of thousands, we're going to go broke. Well, here's an official. Florida has announced it has achieved another historic milestone in tourism, welcoming a record-breaking 34.4 million travelers in the second quarter of 2025. This all-time high for second quarter visitation further cements Florida's reputation as the nation's premier travel destination. These results are proof of Florida's enduring draw and the state's commitment for outstanding experiences from visitors from across the country and the world. Florida continues to lead the way as the nation's top travel destination. People from all over the world come to the free state of Florida to take advantage of our top-tier attractions, great weather, and our commitment to public safety. Today's record numbers are a testament to the work we've done to make Florida the most appealing state to visit in the nation. Domestic travelers accounted for 91.5% of total visitation, with 31.5 million Americans visiting the state. Overseas visitation rose by 11.4% over the year to reach 2.3 million, with an additional 640,000 Canadian visitors visiting Florida. That should answer the question of the email saying, we understand that Americans don't want Canadians coming down anymore. Not in Florida. I'm telling you, this is what you're hearing up there is BS. In addition, Florida's 19 commercial airports handled 28.6 million total enplanements. Punta Gorda, up 22.5%. St. Petersburg, Clermont, up 14%. Room demand at Florida's hotels rose by 1.2%. Florida's hotels could go up a heck of a lot more if they would get them prices back down to pre-COVID prices like they said they were going to do, but never did. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement put a hold on a Wildwood man who was arrested for driving without a license. The deputy observed 37-year-old Irvin Sylvester Hernandez Valdez driving a blue Jeep Cherokee in Lady Lake around 10:25 p.m. Thursday, according to the arrest report from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. A check of the tag revealed its registered owner expired on November 24, 2024. Due to this, the deputy stopped the vehicle at the intersection of U.S. Highway 441 and Northeast 135th crossing. Hernandez Valdez stated he did not have a driver's license and had never gotten one. A check of his driving history confirmed this to be true. Hernandez Valdez was arrested on a charge of operating a motor vehicle without a valid license and issued a citation for expired registration, more than 6 months. The native of Mexico was transported to the Sumter County Detention Center where a bond was set at $500 and ICE placed a hold on him. A man with a suspended license was arrested when a permit to travel for work revealed he was not allowed to drive in Florida. A deputy observed 35-year-old Stephen James Wells of Eustis driving a blue GMC Arcadia just north of the Florida Turnpike in Wildwood around 10:40 p.m. Thursday, according to the arrest report from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. The vehicle's tag lights were not working, leading to the traffic stop at Mobile, located at 1221 South Main Street. The deputy spoke to Wells and asked for his driver's license, registration, and insurance. He handed over an Ohio ID and stated his license was suspended. He also claimed to have special conditions that allowed him to drive to and from work, the report said. Wells gave the deputy a very worn piece of paper, which was a driving permit dated November 21, 2024. The sentences were illegible, but the deputy could make out that Wells was allowed to drive to and from his place of employment. These are listed as rump gutters in Indiana, Hutamaki in Ohio, and GHS all-purpose cleaning in Ohio. The permit made it clear that Wells was supposed to notify the court when traveling anywhere for work other than those three places. He was to be given a new permit with updated addresses that he could drive to and from. He did not have an updated permit due to being in a different state. That was not listed. Wells was subsequently arrested for charges of driving while license suspended. The Ohio native was transported to Sumter County Detention Center where a bond was set at $2,000 and 3 holds were placed on him from Indiana and Ohio. Goodbye, young man. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has placed a hold on a Wildwood man who admitted he was not a citizen and did not have a license. A deputy observed a white Dodge Challenger heading north on Preston Drive in the Villages around 10:45 p.m. Sunday, according to the arrest report from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. A check of the tag revealed the registered owner, 30-year-old Eduardo Salgado Fuardo, did not have a driver's license. He subsequently stopped the vehicle at the Circle K at Southern Trace Plaza. Salgado Fuardo admitted he did not have a license, nor had he ever had one in the United States. He was not a citizen and handed the deputy a Mexican ID card, the report said. Salgado was arrested on charges of operating a vehicle without a valid license. He was transported to the Sumter County Detention Center for bond, where ICE put a hold on his custody. A sex offender from Michigan has moved into a rental property on the historic side of the Villages. Chad Anthony Johnson, 48, registered an address Friday at 1003 Orne Avenue in the village of Silver Lake, according to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. He was convicted in 2019 of second-degree sexual conduct in Livingston County, Michigan. The victim was a female. He has registered a permanent address at the manufactured home, which dates back to 1984. You guys see this guy around any of the family pools up there and children? I believe we have a law here that says he's not allowed to be within like 1,000 feet of it. Call the sheriff. This week's stormy weather is being blamed for a water main break in the Villages. The Sumter County Public Works Department has announced the partial closure of Duncan Drive and Irwin Way in the village of Virginia Trace following a violent lightning storm and heavy rain which occurred Monday night. Public Works has been actively coordinating with Jacobs to complete the necessary repairs and reopen the roadway as soon as possible. Motorists are urged to avoid Duncan Drive and Irwin Way when possible and to use caution when traveling near the work zone. Nearly 6 inches of rain prompted flooding of the streets of Wildwood, where the wastewater treatment plant was also overwhelmed, prompting a 5,000-gallon overflow. In addition, the heavy rain forced the closure of several pools in the Villages due to equipment usage. Yeah, we did. We had one heck of a lot of rain downpour. which, you might say is unusual. It really isn't. It's just that when we get a lot of rain like that, it does have a tendency to bother a lot of stuff, like swimming pools. They overflow. They get contaminated with the rainwater. Okay, let's go to letters to the editor. I'm going to keep it short because I think this news is getting a little too long now. To the editor, I would love to have a White Castle in the villages. We just got new restaurants, Portillo's and Costco, and now we're complaining about a White Castle. It never ends. Used to have them in Chicago, and I lived in the Quad Cities. Our DJ Michaels and Dwyer would have a plane fly to Chicago to get us a bunch of White Castle, but I moved. Now I wish I could get them. They are not the same in the stores. That's sent in by Lori Kluel of Villa of Della Vista. Well, maybe we will. There's a White Castle in Orlando, I know that. I didn't go for the opening, but a friend of mine done video down there at the opening, and it was a madhouse, just a madhouse. And I'm just thinking traffic and all these new restaurants. And I went to Portillo's the other day, and it was just a madhouse. There was no place to even sit to eat. My mind says, if I can't sit down to eat, why am I in here? It was terrible. So as of my first visit to Portillo's, I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a fan. So there you go. White Castle, I've been to White Castle many, many times. Indianapolis area, it was everywhere. They're okay. I don't think they're great at all. They're just a burger with onions, and now they're even getting cheap over the years. Instead of having a burger to put on that bun, so-called bun, now they're punching holes in the burger to save that little bit of meat. And they're telling you it's because it fries more evenly. They don't curl up. That's bull. They're doing it to save a little bit of meat. Why don't we poke a hole in the bun? That way we don't have to worry about eating all that bread. Good Lord. To the editor, I am so sick of hearing about the meaning of loofah and loofah parties and the like. We'll get used to it because these rumors run wild around here, and once people get a hold of them, especially the people that really don't live here, they run wild with these rumors, and people latch a hold of it. I don't know why, but they just do. Women put loofahs on their cars to find them in the parking lots. I believe that. Who is it that has to make something sexual about everything women do? Sick. It ain't everything women do. You know the STD rumors. We all know they're not true. We all know it's bullshit. But that people on the outside latch a hold of that. They think they know something. They remind me of when I was a youngster. My mom was just as bad. She would read the newspaper and then talk to my dad and tell dad about this or that, whatever it was they were talking about. And dad would ask her, where'd you find that out at? She said, it was in a newspaper. And I was told in school at that young age, you can't believe everything you read, only believe half. It says, believe half of what you hear and everything that you see. And I never forgot that saying. And so I said, Mom, just because it's in the paper don't mean it's true. She said, well, if it wasn't true, it wouldn't be in the paper. That was her thought. And I'm thinking a lot of people are like that with the internet. If it wasn't true, it wouldn't be on the internet. You have a lot to learn. Well, I think that's going to be the news for this week, and I appreciate everybody for coming to the channel and subscribing and leaving comments below. All that helps the channel. YouTube has changed the analytics again. I don't know why, but anyway, my views on my news have been dropping, so I don't know if you're being notified. If you're not, make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell. That's the bell icon there when it comes up. That's a notification bell. It will notify you every time we put up a new video. We got a Patreon lunch, I think, coming up here shortly. I don't set those up, but the crew does. So they'll let me know when and where and what time, and I will notify all Patreon members and YouTube members about that. So if you want to go to one of our Patreon lunches or members lunches, like we like to call them, you got to be a member or you're not going to know about it. And by the way, coming up next is going to be everybody's favorite, bad parking. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of here and say have a great weekend. Be well, stay safe, be alert, be aware.
And you'll leave your key in that golf cart.